Charles Robinson returns to join us. Charles, what's the latest on this Deebo versus San Francisco standoff?
So the day the news broke, that Jeff Darlington broke the news that Deebo wanted to be traded, that night I spoke to a team that would be in the top 3. Okay, and the exact phrase was they don't want to trade him at all, like at all, and he emphasized at all. And so I circled back actually this morning. And I said, what's going on? And he said, nothing's changed. Same, it's status quo, same as it was a couple of days ago. So I think the key here is you have to remember the Green Bay Packers and the Kansas City Chiefs weighed out trade package compensation in terms of what they would have paid Davante Adams and Tyreek Hill, all these different things, and they became motivated to do it. They were like, okay, we're open to this. The 49ers are not at all. And I'll tell you part of the reason why that is because they're sitting there going, this is an important year for Trey Lance. Like, we got to make this work. We need him to be able to make strides. We're not taking away an all-pro first-team receiver from the quarterback who we pushed all in on and tried to bring along slowly last year. So it's just functionally that offense could be completely dramatically changed without Deebo Samuel in it. And that's part of the reason why I think, the 49ers are so reticent to do this. Now, I think, could it change? Yeah, if they're like absolutely blown away by an offer, I think it could potentially change. But I just don't know that you're going to see something better than what the Chiefs netted for Tyreek Hill or what the Packers got for Davante Adams, because on the other side of it, you may have to sign this guy to a contract that actually sets the market for wide receivers, as in the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL.
All right, guys, can we put that odds chart up one more time? Because, Charles, I want to ask you a question based off this chart of the teams that are most likely to get Deebo Samuel, or odds-wise.
Mm-hmm.
Would one of these teams put together a package that would be interesting to San Francisco? And if so, just give us an idea of what you think that package might look like.
Well, the Jets, the reason why the Jets are at the top is because the Jets have been most aggressive about making calls on guys. They've really, really done a lot of work on not just the wide receivers in the draft, but also the tradable commodities going into the draft. And they're motivated, to pay out the contract. They were going to do it with Tyreek Hill. They also have 2 picks, the 4th and the 10th. Having those 2 picks in the top 10 picks is a big deal. And I think most teams are in agreement that when you kind of stack up how they think the draft will go, most teams believe the Jets are going to take a wide receiver, depending on who's available, at 10th overall, which would mean you would include that in a trade. So that is if you're the 49ers, you're sitting there going, okay, well, that's a pretty attractive trade piece, the 10th overall pick. I think you'd probably be looking at a 2nd rounder and then maybe a 3rd rounder down the road. Maybe a 3rd in 2023 or 2024. But I mean, minimum of a 1, a 2, and a 3, I think that's a minimum. I'm saying a minimum. And the 49ers may not even be interested in that. That's how big of a deal this guy is to their offense. When I put together my all-pro team for my vote, I talked to people in the NFC West, and I was struggling with trying to figure out who was going to be my 3rd receiver, and it was not a struggle once I talked to people in the NFC West. They're like, Deebo Samuel is the best player on their offense. With all due respect to George Kittle, he changes dramatically what they can do when he's not on the field.
So, you know what? That 49ers may not be interested. I got one more thing on this subject. In terms of just the process.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to trade him as a principal, as a leverage point. Okay, so they don't want to trade him. But what's that process like if and when they do? In other words, like all the, machinations that you just, put forth, are the Niners even doing due diligence when it comes to teams that they may want to trade him to? Are they listening at all and having meetings behind the scenes? Also, wouldn't the next step in the process be, okay, you have permission to seek a trade? Because if you're the Jets or anybody else, like you said earlier a moment ago, Charles, can you put forth an offer or put any effort toward acquiring Deebo Samuel if you've not had a chance, tampering aside, if you've not had a chance to engage with him in his representation on the kind of contract he would want? You know what I mean? Like, it almost feels like we're so far away from even a deal even happening, because the Niners got to start kind of like getting their mind around the fact that they would trade him at all.
Right. First and foremost, I mean, I think in terms of like how that process would look, it's simplified to the point of if they're not listening to other teams, and that was my understanding, was that like teams were inquiring, but the 49ers were just like, he's not available. Yeah. I mean, I think as of this morning, it wasn't like, hey, they're entertained, like, go ahead, tell us what you would offer. Now, all of the teams that are involved, though, that have made calls, look, Deebo's agent knows what they would be willing to offer in a trade package, and it's as simple as Deebo's agent being like, look, you can get this. This is what's on the table here. This is what's attractive. So, like, I'll give you another example. Like Kyler Murray. If Kyler Murray were to be traded at any point, with the Arizona Cardinals, it's as simple as Eric Burkhart, his agent, being like, hey, guess what? Here's this team that's willing to offer, to start 3 firsts and 3 thirds. And
so they're not just sitting on their hands. This would come together quickly if the Niners change course.
Absolutely. I mean, they would know. They would know the starting point for every single team automatically. Okay.
Gotcha.
But I think part of the thing is here for the 49ers, it's more. I think they're thinking more along the lines of, how is this going to work if we, how is this going to work now? Like, we're going to do we hang on to him and franchise tag him after a year? Like, is he not going to show up? Like, he clearly does not want to be here. How do we change that? And they're in a tough spot here because he keeps reiterating, as you said, I do not want to be here anymore. And I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. He's doing it in a very public way. It's not just behind the scenes. He's letting everybody know repeatedly.
You mentioned the work you did on your All-Pro team. Let's talk about the All-Juice team. We had Eric Edholm, your colleague, on last week that you guys do in honor of the late, great Therese Paylor, your former colleague and friend. Who was your favorite person to research? Who was your favorite inclusion? If you had to pick a player that you just enjoyed the process of talking to scouts and evaluators around the league, where you're like, hey, this is the guy that I learned about, that I'm really excited about as we embark upon draft week, that I learned about through the process of putting together this all-juice team?
It was definitely Jalen Petrie, the safety for Baylor. It was because I was not, even though I live in Texas, because I'm not hyper focused on college football. I wasn't really as aware of him as clearly I should have been, because the way we kind of go about our process is, it's just, hitting up all these evaluators and saying, I'll tell you kind of what the template is. Just give me some guys, some names. Like, help us to compile sort of lists. And literally at one point, he appeared without prompting on 12 straight lists. And it has never happened. Like, it didn't happen last year. It sure as hell in this draft, which is just scattershot. Everybody had varying opinions on every guy. Wasn't going to happen anywhere. I mean, maybe Aiden Hutchinson. Okay. So, like, other than the presumed first or second pick in the draft, you had this safety out of Baylor where it was just like, it was phenomenal. And at one point I thought maybe he's going to be on like every single list. And finally the 13th guy came in and popped the bubble. But, just learning about, his toughness is he played at linebacker out of position at one point. Just what teams really valued in him, the fact that he's got versatility. And also it's interesting because you just don't hear a lot of people raving about. I would never have expected like a safety is going to be this guy. And by the way, he's not like a first round pick. He's more likely going to be somewhere in the second. But now I'm really curious to see who he lands with. The team itself was a lot of fun this year, just because there was so many varying opinions on players. The quarterback decision was, we literally had someone, it's Kenny Pickett's the best quarterback, and he's the guy who's got to be on the list. Sam Howell. It was every single. It was like 5-6 different quarterbacks. An Ivy League quarter. I mean, it was just like everybody was offering up a different quarterback. So that was really a struggle. We landed on Malik Willis because, Terez, especially the last few teams that he did, he really tried. He was clearly picking guys where he kind of thought this is where the league's going, and liked what I think was like Kyler Murray and Jalen Hurts were his last two quarterbacks on his team. We kind of felt like Malik Willis really kind of fit that.
Charles, do you have or did Terez have an all juice team alum that you just kind of followed? He was on the team. You didn't know where he was going to be drafted. The guy gets drafted and just kind of keep an eye on him and follow him on his pro team. Is there anybody like that is in the league now?
You know who he picked, and he really liked him a lot. And Terez talked about this quite a bit with me. Kittle, George Kittle. He picked Kittle and really liked Kittle a lot as a college player, like was super into him and had no clue that he was going to be the kind of player he was on the NFL level. Like the year Kittle blew up, Terez was beaming. Like he was just like overjoyed because he was like, I love this guy in college. And that was the one guy that I remember him just being so happy with himself when he put Kittle on the team, because he kind of felt like not only did he exude what the team was all about, he maximized that on an NFL level. And he's also, he's just like he's a nasty player who does nasty stuff from a tight end position, which, you love guys who are two-way tight ends. And that's Terez's like all-time great thing, is like a two-way tight end. he's a phenomenal pass catcher, but he'll beat the crap out of you as a blocker. I mean, that was it for him. Like, give me that guy. Give me 11 of those guys on offense.
Well, that was definitely fun to check out. You guys did his memory a great service, and I got my hoodie, in the mail today. By the way, Charles.
Awesome,
yeah.
Great, thank you.
So speaking of not having a clue, this draft, man. Okay, so Trayvon Walker is now the number one pick according to the odds makers. He's the odds-on favorite to be number one pick. Trent Baalke said they were discussing 4 guys at number 1. So the intrigue starts at number 1. You've covered a lot of drafts. Rate the level of uncertainty and intrigue and possibilities and surprise factor around this draft. And just, what's the sexiest, juiciest thing that you're hearing about the top of the draft as we let you go?
It's a 10 of 10. Like, it really is a 10 of 10. Like, the guys have it's remarkable how I had somebody hit me up last night who is dialed in, like someone who I've gone to repeatedly every single year just to try to sort out the top 10. He called me out of the blue and was like, I don't know what's going on. What are you hearing? And I was just like flabbergasted. I've never heard him kind of have zero clue on how the top 10 was going to stack up. As you said, even number 1 is up in the air. Here's kind of a little bit of a juicy thing that people should think about. Okay, number 1 overall. Trent Baalke and Jim Harbaugh, not a good situation historically between those guys at all. Okay, at all. Really interesting that it's Jim Harbaugh's guy who is penciled in as the number 1, and the impediment inside the building appears to be Trent Baalke going, that's not who I want to take at number 1. I'm not saying that past relationships play into this, but I think it's really interesting that the head coach of the guy who seemed to be the hammerlock number 1 player for a pretty long time, the guy who doesn't like that player does not have a good relationship at all with the head coach.
So you're saying it's doubtful that he talked to the head coach in Michigan about it.
I'm not saying
that's part of his due diligence.
I'm sure they talked, but
no, you talked to him. You talked to him. Tell me what he said.
There are people I do not like that I talk to, and I'm just like, "Hi, how you doing, bud? How you been? Yeah." And I'm like, 4-letter expletive running through my mind the entire time that I'm talking. Like, I just think it's a really interesting wrinkle at the top there that the GM with this pick had a horrific relationship with this head coach back when they were together with the 49ers. Real quick, one other thing I'd bring up about this draft. 3 players that I think are really interesting. So
all right.
Everybody talks about like what all these teams they look for in the draft, particularly a draft like this where you're kind of struggling to come to a consensus, is you start to look for like really things that are really special about a player. Okay, let's find a guy who has really special stuff. I think Derek Stingley Jr., the corner out of LSU, It's interesting. There's two injury guys here who, if injuries didn't play into it, they had the special juice, to be top 5, top 6 picks. Derek Stingley Jr. out of LSU is one of them. Jamison Williams out of Alabama is another one. And then I think this guy's not injured, but it's just sort of scheme and kind of how he plays, and the fact that he's not like really a pass rush specialist necessarily, or he's not a pocket collapser in terms of the quarterback. Jordan Davis, the interior tackle out of Georgia. Those are 3 guys, 2 of which very special traits. They all have special traits, 2 of which are depressed because of injuries, and 1 of which is depressed because of scheme usage. Just let's watch and see where those guys end up in this draft, because as evaluators, you talk to guys that are like, as you get closer to the draft, you're kind of like, why don't we just take the guy with the special stuff? Like, okay, we feel pretty good about the injury. Why don't we just take that guy? I wouldn't be surprised if all 3 of those guys go higher than a lot of people maybe are projecting them to go.
Our number 1 overall pick in any draft, Charles Robinson from Yahoo. We were talking to you a lot this week, brother. We appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Keep working them phones. Thanks for the intel. We'll talk to you later. Thanks for bringing the juice.
Absolutely. I'll see you guys later this week.
Nice.
All right, man. Be good.
All right, Charles. Thank you. Hey, thanks for watching Brother from Another on YouTube. Make sure you hit subscribe before you leave, and be sure to watch us 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Peacock. Appreciate you.